Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today we are taking a closer look at one of the most significant political and economic developments emerging from Iraq, a large-scale anti-corruption campaign that has reportedly resulted in the arrest of 43 officials and politicians, with informed sources indicating that this operation is only the first phase of a broader effort. According to the available information, authorities are preparing a second phase that could extend investigations toward what have been described as first-class figures. While official judicial procedures will ultimately determine responsibility in each individual case, the announcement itself has already generated considerable attention among economists, investors, financial observers, and Iraqi dinar followers around the world. For anyone following Iraq's economy, this development is important, because corruption has long been identified as one of the major structural obstacles preventing stronger economic growth, more efficient public spending, and greater confidence in Iraqi institutions. It is also an issue frequently raised by international organizations. Whenever Iraq's fiscal reforms, banking modernization, and investment climate are discussed. That is why today's report deserves careful analysis, rather than emotional reactions or unrealistic speculation. Whenever news involving anti-corruption operations emerges, it is common to see dramatic headlines suggesting that everything in Iraq is about to change overnight. However, responsible financial analysis requires a more balanced approach. One anti-corruption campaign, regardless of its size, does not instantly transform an economy. Instead, the true significance depends on whether investigations are conducted transparently, whether judicial procedures remain independent, whether stolen public resources are successfully recovered where applicable, and whether institutional reforms continue after the initial arrests receive media attention. According to the information currently available, authorities have reportedly arrested 43 defendants during what sources describe as the first phase of the country's largest anti-corruption campaign. Reports further indicate that investigations are expected to continue into a second phase that could involve higher-ranking personalities. If confirmed through official judicial processes, this would represent one of the broadest accountability efforts Iraq has witnessed in recent years. To understand why this matters for the Iraqi dinar, it is necessary to look beyond politics and examine the broader economic picture. Currency values are influenced by numerous factors, including fiscal policy, monetary policy, foreign exchange reserves, inflation, economic productivity, political stability, investor confidence, oil revenues, and institutional credibility. Anti-corruption efforts primarily influence the last two categories, institutional credibility and investor confidence. For many years, Iraq has possessed enormous economic potential due to its natural resources, strategic location, and youthful population. Oil exports continue to generate substantial government revenues, providing the financial foundation for public spending and development projects. Yet, despite these advantages, the country has struggled to translate resource wealth into broad-based economic prosperity. One reason frequently identified by economists is inefficient governance and corruption, which can divert public resources away from infrastructure, healthcare, education, and productive investment. When corruption becomes widespread, governments often face higher project costs, delayed implementation, weaker public services, and reduced investor confidence. Domestic businesses may hesitate to expand, while international companies may demand higher risk premiums before committing capital. Financial institutions may also become more cautious when evaluating long-term lending opportunities. These factors can collectively slow economic diversification, leaving Iraq more dependent on oil revenues. Therefore, a credible anti-corruption campaign has the potential to contribute positively to the overall investment climate. However, potential should never be confused with certainty. Markets generally wait for sustained evidence rather than isolated announcements. Investors typically ask several questions. Will investigations remain impartial? Will prosecutions follow due legal process? Will institutional reforms continue? Will procurement systems become more transparent? Will regulatory agencies improve accountability? The answers to these questions ultimately determine whether confidence improves over time. For Iraqi Dinar followers, it is equally important to recognize the role of the Central Bank of Iraq. The central bank's monetary policy operates independently from criminal investigations. Decisions regarding exchange rate management, inflation control, banking supervision, foreign reserves, and financial stability are based on economic conditions rather than individual arrests. Therefore, although governance improvements can create a healthier, long-term economic environment, they should not automatically be interpreted as immediate signals regarding exchange rate policy. One reason many international financial institutions encourage governance reforms is because stronger institutions tend to support sustainable economic growth. Countries with transparent financial systems generally experience better tax collection, more efficient public expenditure, improved investor confidence, and stronger banking sectors. Over many years, these improvements can contribute to macroeconomic stability, which is beneficial for any national currency. In Iraq's case, recent years have already seen efforts aimed at banking reform, digital payment expansion, anti-money laundering compliance, customs modernization, and public financial management improvements. These initiatives seek to strengthen the country's financial infrastructure and align it more closely with international standards. An effective anti-corruption campaign could complement these broader reforms if it is implemented consistently and fairly. Another important aspect involves public trust. Citizens are more likely to participate in formal banking systems when they have confidence that institutions operate transparently. Increased banking participation supports financial inclusion, improves monetary policy transmission, and enhances liquidity management throughout the economy. These developments are gradual but meaningful because modern economies depend heavily on strong financial institutions rather than cash-based informal systems. International investors also monitor governance indicators closely. Large infrastructure projects, manufacturing investments, logistics hubs, renewable energy developments, and technology partnerships all require long-term confidence in regulatory stability. If investors believe contracts will be honored fairly and corruption risks are declining, Iraq may gradually become more attractive for diversified investment beyond the energy sector. Economic diversification remains one of Iraq's most important long-term objectives. While oil revenues provide substantial income, fluctuations in global energy prices can significantly affect government finances. Developing agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, transportation, telecommunications, and private enterprise would help reduce dependence on a single commodity. Strong governance plays an essential role in encouraging these sectors to expand. Some viewers naturally ask whether anti-corruption campaigns could recover large amounts of stolen public funds. In principle, successful investigations can sometimes lead to asset recovery, financial settlements, or restitution, depending on judicial outcomes and legal procedures. However, each case differs considerably, and asset recovery often requires lengthy investigations, international cooperation, and court decisions. Therefore, it would be inappropriate to assume immediate financial gains until legal processes have concluded. The banking sector also benefits when financial crimes are investigated effectively. Strong compliance standards improve relationships with international financial institutions and correspondent banks. This can facilitate cross-border transactions, encourage foreign investment, and strengthen confidence in domestic financial systems. Again, these improvements occur gradually rather than instantly. For Iraqi dinar observers, patience remains essential. Exchange rate expectations should always be based on official monetary policy announcements, macroeconomic indicators, and verified government decisions rather than rumors circulating on social media. Responsible analysis separates confirmed developments from speculation, allowing viewers to make better informed judgments about economic trends. Short-term market reactions to today's news may be relatively limited because investors typically wait for additional information. Markets generally seek confirmations regarding the scope of investigations, institutional follow-through, and broader policy implications before significantly adjusting expectations. Financial markets often distinguish between announcements and implementation. Long-term implications could be more meaningful if this campaign becomes part of a sustained reform strategy. Consistent enforcement of anti-corruption laws, stronger procurement oversight, judicial independence, financial transparency, and administrative modernization would collectively improve Iraq's economic environment over time. These are the types of structural improvements that economists generally associate with stronger investment climates and healthier long-term growth. It is also worth emphasizing that anti-corruption efforts sometimes encounter political challenges. High-profile investigations may involve complex legal proceedings, competing political interests, and extensive judicial review. Therefore, the pace of developments may vary considerably. Observers should expect legal processes to take time rather than anticipating immediate conclusions. From the perspective of international credit agencies and development institutions, governance reforms often influence country risk assessments alongside fiscal discipline, debt sustainability, inflation management, and external balances. While no single reform determines an entire country's outlook, cumulative progress across multiple areas can gradually strengthen international confidence. Another important factor is public administration efficiency. Reducing corruption can improve budget execution, allowing infrastructure projects to proceed more effectively. Better roads, ports, electricity networks, water systems, schools, and healthcare facilities support productivity throughout the economy. Higher productivity ultimately strengthens economic resilience over the long run. The relationship between governance and currency strength is therefore indirect but meaningful. Good governance supports stronger institutions. Strong institutions encourage investment. Greater investment supports economic diversification. Diversified economies are generally more resilient. Greater resilience contributes to macroeconomic stability, which supports confidence in the national currency. This sequence unfolds over years rather than days. For viewers interested specifically in the Iraqi dinar, today's development should therefore be viewed as one component of a much larger economic picture. Oil production, global energy prices, government budgets, inflation, central bank reserves, banking reforms, international partnerships, and private sector growth remain equally important variables when assessing Iraq's long-term economic trajectory.